What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball, and more importantly, welcome back to our season preview series. This is the series where I'm breaking down all 30 NBA teams before the start of the regular season, and in this video, we've got the Phoenix Suns. I understand that this is kind of a dead point in the NBA calendar. Not too many people care about basketball at this time of the year, but you're here, which means you're one of the basketball sweats, and you're trying to get ready for the start of the season, get familiar with all the teams. So in this video, I'm going to help you do that by preparing you, breaking down all the little nuances and aspects of the team. We're going to start off with going over what happened with the team the previous year, talk about some goals. We're going to go over their off season. We're going to do a complete roster, asset, salary cap breakdown, do some mock trades, go through rotations and lineups, and then finally finish off with where I think this team's going to finish the regular season. But before we get into any of that, make sure that you guys like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment in my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. I'm bringing you guys these videos 5 times a week, right? Bright and early at 6:30 a.m. Central Time. I guess if you're overseas or anything, I hope you are having a good lunch and or dinner enjoying these videos, but please show them some support. I know that this isn't a time where I'm going to get crazy views or anything on the video, but there's probably 4 other videos that aren't even on the screen right now that you can go watch right now because these are pre-recorded. But seriously, show these videos some love and hope you guys have some fun with them. All right, let's talk about Phoenix. And that brings us back to our season preview spreadsheet. This is the spreadsheet that I built to kind of help articulate and visualize the story of season preview. I build these spreadsheets a lot on the channel, and you can actually get access to this if you want to. All you have to do is go down to the link in the description. You'll see a link to join my Discord there. It's completely free. Go hop on there, go to the announcements channel, and there's a way to download this spreadsheet there. Have fun with it. Share what you end up making with it. Windows security, get off my fucking screen. Good Lord, I'm like 2 minutes into this video. Y'all already got me cussing up a storm. But no, seriously, if you want access to Java, I'm not playing with you today. But yeah, no, if y'all want access to the spreadsheet, go there, have fun with it. All right, let's talk about the Phoenix Suns before I get pissed off at anything else my computer's trying to do. We always start off with the intro tab. The intro tab is a good way for us to talk about what happened with this team last season and where are we going forward this season. So Phoenix Suns fans, I'm sorry. It's been rough as of late. Ever since you guys made that finals run with Chris Paul, Booker, and Ayton, hasn't been the greatest for you. It really hasn't. It looked so promising when you were able to bring in Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, and you were like, wow, we've got 3 of the best scorers in the NBA on our team, but we know it's going to take up a lot of the salary cap, and so it's going to be really tough to put a team around these guys. And if I'm being honest with you, I think the front office did a pretty good job of building the roster, all said and done. Unfortunately, injuries took place, and even more so a problem. Well, maybe not more so, but I think another problem was I just don't think they ever picked the right coaches to be a part of this staff. I was always bummed when they let Monty go. I thought Monty was a great coach, at least from what I saw on the court, and I don't know. I feel like there were better ways to go about things. I think we let go of coaches a bit too quickly nowadays. I felt like there was maybe a better culture in place at that point. But what we saw from the big 3 of Beal, Durant, and Booker when they were on the court together was honestly really productive. There wasn't much you could do to stop those 3 from getting where they wanted to go and getting buckets on the court. But ultimately, they just weren't that healthy enough. And again, I just don't think the coach did a good enough job, or the coaching staff, I should say, did a good enough job of implementing enough things to just make life a little bit easier. Yes, they needed more defensive players. Yep, they maybe needed better spacing at times or whatever. And yes, they needed better center play. Like Nurkic wasn't necessarily the answer when he was there. But I also don't think it was bad enough to say that the coaches are just off the hook with things. But now, Kevin Durant's gone, Bradley Beal's gone, you're left with Booker and a bunch of new faces that you got to learn in this video today, Phoenix Suns fans. So we're in this really odd situation. After finishing last season 36-46, meaning you're a lottery team without a lottery pick, you're kind of left going, what the fuck's going on right now? That's why I've got your franchise status here. If you're new to these videos, we have a couple different franchise statuses you can fit in. You got selling teams, so teams that are actively trying to tear things down so they can restart. You got rebuilding teams that are like, okay, we tore it down. We're trying to find who our key pieces are going to be. We got growing teams, meaning you already found those pieces and you're trying to work towards being a contender. Everyone's getting better every year, right? Contenders, you're trying to win a championship. And the rare who the fuck knows team, right? And that's kind of where Phoenix finds himself. It's not a good place to be, I can promise you that, right? Phoenix doesn't have a lot of assets right now. They've got a great player in Devin Booker that's brought you to a championship situation before, but you're kind of looking pretty far off right now. You're in a tough salary cap situation. Like, is this team rebuilding? Is it not, right? You don't really want to rebuild with Devin Booker. It's really complicated, right? It's really complicated. So we're going to talk about it a lot in this video, but first, let's get into the goals. First goal that I have for this team this year, add some real point guards to this team. And we don't have a very good point guard situation on this team. Devin Booker, for as good of a basketball player he is, he's a great playmaker, right? He's a great scorer. Like, he's just one of the better guys we have in basketball, right? Devin Booker has always been better, kind of being the secondary playmaker, right? That's where we've seen the best Devin Booker. When other people are playmaking, he's coming off of actions, and then he's able to use like his elite playmaking and scoring, like coming off of those actions. Like, it's just always been better for him that way. And it makes a lot of logical sense. Like, that's just the type of scorer and player that he is. So I just wish that we could do something to kind of get some of those guys on the team. We kind of tried it with Tyus Jones last year, and to some extent it worked, but to some extent it didn't either. So I'd like to get some real point guards on this team in some way or fashion. Make Jalen Green look good and flip him. You now have Jalen Green on your team, Phoenix Suns fans. Just go ask Houston Rockets fans what they think of him. So much talent, and again, we'll talk about him later in the video, but I don't see a reason to keep him and Booker together. I'm kind of surprised he didn't get immediately flipped again, but hey, if you can make him look good and sell him at an even higher rate, great, do that. Then I don't see the fit long term, so I think this is an asset or kind of a home you're trying to flip right now. Final thing, trade Richards for other assets. Nick Richards was a guy they brought in this last year at the center position on a pretty cheap contract that they just don't need anymore. They kind of went and figured out a lot of the center position, at least for the immediate future, or maybe more so the long-term future because they're younger centers, but a pretty quality center at like only making like $5 million, man, flip him somewhere else, man. Like, you just need assets in other avenues, and teams need big men. Like, use your assets better right now. And the Suns, again, typically not that bad at making trades and everything. Like, their regime has been pretty good at that overall. It is some newer people in there now, though, so I guess we'll see what ends up happening, but I think that'd be a better use of asset management. Okay, we've talked about goals. We've talked about the fact that we don't know where the fuck this team is going right now, right? So let's go talk about their offseason. It was extremely extensive. We have a lot of people to break down in that section of the video, so let's start talking about that. Alrighty, the off season. If you guys have been watching my channel for any amount of time, you guys are familiar with this tab, and you'll see that there are a lot more people on there than there normally are. It's just kind of how it is. But in last year's series, we used this same tab to talk about the off season. We've got kind of three components to the off season when it comes to players, right? We've got drafted players, so players that were just drafted that are going to be on the full-time roster. So if they were drafted and they're going to get like a two-way spot, doesn't count. Player departures, guys that were on the full-time roster at the end of last season that won't be on it this year. And then players brought in, so guys via trade, free agency, wherever, that have now been added to the full-time roster. Let's start off with the drafted players. Two guys here, and then one fan favorite. If you guys do want breakdowns of these players, if you're a Suns fan, you're like, who the hell do I have on my team? I've got videos for you guys to watch on those that are here. This was a really successful series where we broke down a ton of the top-end talent on here. Both guys that you can see here have videos in this series. I covered the draft professionally. I worked for a team. I was a scout and did all of that. So please, like, go listen to my opinions on it if you want. They are just my opinions, but I think they're interesting nonetheless. First one, come on, Maluwach. The Suns needed a big man. They went and got the big man out of Duke. Absolutely monstrous person, incredible athlete. What's interesting about Maluwach, right, is you look at him and you're like, okay, this guy could be the ultimate like run, jump, and dunk type of guy, just with like his sheer size and athleticism, right? But what's more so interesting is the fact that like he seems to have just a pretty good grip on like kind of like how the game works, despite not playing basketball for very long. Like, he makes a lot of like inexperienced mistakes. Like, this guy's only been playing basketball for like 2-3 years. He's from like the Basketball Without Borders program and everything in Africa. Like, Luol Deng's always finding these people and bringing them stateside. He's picking things up really quick. This is a very like smart just person in general, and it's cool to see how much of it he's kind of gained, like how much basketball he was able to gain just in his short time at Duke. I think he projects to be a long-term center in the NBA, and maybe he even starts to develop some of that like three-point shot that we've heard some rumors of, right? So If you can add all those aspects together, you can have a very dynamic player. Next, you have is Rasheer Fleming, junior player coming out of St. John's, right? That's what it was. Fleming was a lot of people's like kind of favorite under the radar prospect coming into this draft. And when he fell to the second round, the Suns moved up hella quick to go get him, which again, props to the Suns for doing. They tend to make pretty good roster decision moves, ultimately. And what you get out of Rasheer Fleming is like a 6'9" forward that stepped out and hit a lot of three-pointers, despite having some maybe unorthodox shooting form, like was very confident with it. He's an incredible athlete. Everyone liked the whole stat of like he dunked this many times and hit this many threes. He's like an ultimate 2K kind of player. And what my favorite thing about him is he played without the basketball for most of the game. There's so many people that need the basketball to do what they do. Rasheer Fleming does not. He does not need the basketball to do what he does. He cuts, he plays in transition, he's smart, he spaces, screens for others. That's such a rare thing. And the fact that you got so much production out of a guy that didn't need the basketball, that's big time. I think that this guy can be a contributor at the NBA level. I really, really do. And there is one other guy that they drafted by the name of Kobe Bryant that we love on this channel. He's not on the full-time roster, but you know we're going to be watching for him. Elite sharpshooter that'll be a two-way player this year. So shout out Kobe Bryant. Player departures, Kevin Durant. Yeah, obviously a part of the trade that brought in Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks. It was time for Durant to go, right? There was just no point in him being on the team anymore. It's not that Kevin Durant's not still one of the best players in the NBA. It's just time for this team to go in a different direction. It wasn't going anywhere, so time for him to go elsewhere. Obviously, losing him is an incredibly substantial loss. Bradley Beal as well. Maybe not quite as all-around of a contributor as Kevin Durant, and obviously Durant's just debatably still the best offensive player in basketball at times, or at least the best scorer, I should say. Maybe not all around offense, but scoring. Like there's still nobody really touching Kevin Durant. But anyway, Bradley Beal, awesome offensive player for them. Couldn't quite find a role on this team that was to the liking of NBA fans, at least. The whole like, oh, they pay him $50 million and he only gets you 18 points a game. It was always a silly thing that people complained about because there's only been like 8 or 9 teams ever that have ever had like 3 20-point a game scores, and they were all teams that had like a 22, a 21, and a 20-point a game score. Like his offense is still great. It's still really, really good. He's still Bradley Beal. He just played with a Devin Booker and a Kevin Durant. But regardless, defense wasn't all that great. The team defense itself just didn't make a lot of sense, like what they were running out of there or out of Phoenix last year. But still a high-level player. He's out of there. Tyus Jones, kind of supposed to be their playmaker and stuff last year. Wasn't quite as solid at all the things that he normally does. Again, I'm going to blame that more situationally, but good outside shooter, quality point guard. He's off to Orlando. Mason Plumlee, veteran big man, wasn't really doing anything too crazy for you. He's only taking wide open shots at this point in his career, still grabbing a ton of rebounds, so cool. There you go. They needed big men last year. You're probably not going to be missing him too much with the new big man rotation that you have. Next person we have is Cody Martin. You got good defense out of him. That's about it, though. Good like one-on-one defender type shit, but can't really do much for you offensively at this point. He's not going to play make. He's not really shooting the ball that well, so I don't know. Not the biggest deal to be missing him. I believe he was on a non-guaranteed contract and they let him go. Next, I never know how to say his first name, but Micic. Look, man, he's a good playmaker. That's about it. I'm not sure he's NBA level good, honestly, and I'd say it is just best ending up overseas at this point. But yeah, dude can move the ball around the court. That's for sure. Bull, something that like 2% of the basketball world doesn't understand why it doesn't work. Bull, outside of like blocking shots and hitting pull-up mid-range jumpers, can't really do much for you basketball-wise. He doesn't pick up systems very well, kind of just plays wherever. Yes, he's an incredibly interesting athletic specimen, but doesn't always mean it's leading to something, so that is why he is out of there. Monte Morris, what was once an elite kind of backup point guard in the NBA, since injuries, hasn't been able to really get it going. Still like a solid playmaker if you look at a lot of the numbers, but not really doing anything too crazy for you out there. So again, maybe he is better than some of the other options you have at point guard right now, but kind of whatever. Finally, Demean Lee, a guy that's just been kind of hurt as of late. Nothing he was really excelling at as of recently. At one point was a solid defender, 3-point shooting option, but we've yet to kind of see that come back since injuries. But let's talk about the guys that are actually on your roster now. Jalen Green. Oh, Jalen Green. He's the walking example of one of the things that we mind you, right? I'm rooting for Jalen Green, right? You guys know this, right? I don't hate anybody because I know people like to get in the comments sometimes like, AVC, why do you hate my favorite player? I don't know if Jalen Green's anybody's favorite player, but like, you guys know I don't actually like fucking hate any of these dudes. And if you do say that in my comments, I feel like I should just block you or hide you is what it's technically called. But anyway, phenomenal athletic specimen, right? He can handle, he can shoot. Well, in theory, and he's just like ridiculous, like in terms of an athlete, right? Like 10 out of 10 athlete, no question about that. But he does embody kind of this modern basketball player that just plays basketball with no sense of strategy whatsoever. There isn't necessarily an efficient part of his game at this point. He's not a playmaker. He's a pretty poor defensive player. Just gets baited into a ton of things. And we saw what we thought was a glimmer of hope maybe like a year ago with his game, and it just kind of fell back down to earth. He was leading the Rockets in scoring, and then they got to the playoffs, and teams have time to game plan, and it's like he just was gone. He just wasn't even relevant at all, and it's a shame, man. So I'd like to say that I think it could go better here. I don't necessarily think this team is set up to help him be successful in that way, but maybe just playing with Devin Booker, who is a very smart basketball player, will teach him. I don't know. On the other end, Dylan Brooks, very competent basketball player, kind of all around. Again, we shouldn't undermine the fact that Jalen Green can go get you 20, 30 points at any point. It's just, some of the other nights it's going to be fucking atrocious, right? Just kind of how it is. Again, Dylan Brooks, great defensive player, great outside shooter, not doing a ton else for you, but kind of the embodiment of that 3-and-D wing that you want in the NBA. So he's a very valuable guy to have on your team. Great attitude setter. We like Dylan Brooks. Mark Williams is on the team. What a saga he had last year. So for those of you that don't remember, Mark Williams was in a very interesting situation last year. Basically coming back for some injuries. He's a giant center that can jump out of the gym. He's got like a longer standing reach than Wemby. In theory, you think, oh wow, really athletic, like 7'1" center that can jump that high, like reach that high. Like AVC, what a defensive presence. He must be wrong, horrible defensive player. But again, context, right? What's the context, AVC? Motherfucker just was not trying whatsoever. His effort was atrocious in Charlotte when you watch it. Even the announcers like really got on him at points last year. And even some of just like the local like news anchors or like sports anchors and stuff were just like, yo, I'm sick of watching Mark Williams play, man. It's just pissing me off. And look, you were in kind of a crazy organization for a while. So like I sometimes get it with the young players, but ultimately you can't have that. So out of nowhere, he gets traded to the Lakers after the Luka Doncic trade for Dalton Connect or whatever. And we're all like, oh, wow, what a pickup, like the run, jump, and dunk kind of center that Luka needs. But trade gets reversed. The Lakers medical staff goes and looks, and they're like, Mark Williams is not actually as healthy as the Charlotte Hornets said that he was, because when these trades happen, what you can do, and the reason I'm explaining this again is because there's some people that don't understand that not everything's a fucking conspiracy theory on the internet. But anyway, so basically the Lakers were talking to the Hornets during this trade, and they're like, hey, is Mark like healthy? Is he good to go? And the Hornets like, oh yeah, no, he's good to go. Like, well, let's make the trade. So the Lakers say, okay, we're going to put like an injury provision in this. And what that basically means is when a trade happens, doctors will evaluate a player and score them based on how like put together their body is. And if they score under a certain amount, you can void the trade because they're saying, hey, this person is not actually like physically kept up, or his body's just at a certain point where he's probably not going to be okay. And so Mark Williams fails those tests, and the Lakers now have the option to void the trade, and they do, because they're like, nope, we're not going to spend these first round picks on this. It's not worth it. Some people are like, oh, like the Lakers wanted to get out of this trade and yada yada yada. First of all, why would they waste their time doing that? Why would they do that? That just makes no fucking sense, you idiots. But anyway, it's unfortunate, because what it probably means is that Mark Williams' body doesn't look like it's going to last who knows how long, right? It very well could. It just means that it always could be a persistent problem with kind of like his back and his knees and things like that, right? But hopefully he's going to be a motivated player, because he is extremely talented. Hopefully he is able to stay healthy. Again, it's not a death sentence by any means, but it looks difficult, right? So hopefully he comes together and he can be the center that you really, really want around Devin Booker. But anyway, let's move on. We spent enough time on that saga. Jordan Goodwin, Lakers guard last year. That was a fun discovery for them. Really good defensive player. for guard, rebounds really well. Not going to be a playmaker or much of a scorer, but he is a competent outside shooter, so he's at least an option to kind of guard point guards while Devin Booker's kind of doing his thing offensively in maybe a point guard role. So I like that addition a lot. We have Colin Gillespie, probably a pretty unknown player to a lot of people, just kind of a game manager type of guy, keeps the turnovers low, assists are high. Defensively, not going to be anything like too crazy just because the size alone, but he's a smart player and he works hard, so there you go. And then finally, Nigel Hayes-Davis making the team. And some of you are like, who? Like, who the hell? Very surprised to see this guy make the roster. He's actually a blast from the past. He was a part of the start of my coaching journey, actually, back in the day. I'll save that story for another day. But basically played at Wisconsin, was like a really big-time player there. Never really made it in the NBA as anything. He's been overseas as of late, and apparently good enough to play here now. I'll be so honest with you, I don't know what his game looks like nowadays. I haven't been watching it, not too like caught up on it, haven't watched any film on it, so I have no idea like what his like minutes are going to look like, if this guy's what he's going to be able to contribute as at this point. So I don't know. I'll be very curious to see, but shout out Nigel Hayes-Davis being on the team. Okay, that was a lot. That was a whole offseason. A lot of new faces for your Phoenix Suns this year. Let's go talk about the rest of the roster and kind of what's going on there. Alrighty, that brings us back here to this tab. If you guys have been watching my channel for any amount of time, you're probably pretty familiar with this tab. We use it in a bunch of different series because it's a really good way to kind of show like the entirety of a basketball team. Like we've got a roster with some analytics and salary cap numbers here. We have actual team salary cap implications, draft assets, and then our favorite thing, the depth chart that everybody in the comment section or basketball Twitter love to have their opinions about, and they're always really smart and intelligent opinions. AVC, I saw a report that Jalen Green is going to play point guard this year. I can't believe you put him as a shooting guard. You fucking idiot, AVC. Billy, I'm going to ask you one time today. Shut the fuck up. You're an idiot. Go outside. Go do something else. You don't understand this. Go back to playing 2K. Is anybody, by the way, question of the day, y'all playing 2K26? Is it anything? This is 2 years in a row of me not buying that fucking game, man. I'm not giving them any more of my money. And I saw that NCAA is gonna be like a 2K game, and that just pisses me off. I wanted an EA made game, but I'm not like an expert on that stuff, so you guys tell me if I'm an idiot for having that opinion or not. That's one that I'll let you get in on the comments and scrutinize me for, because I'm no video game expert. But anyway, let's start with kind of just talking about the roster and what's going on with them this year. So if you're new to the channel and you're like, AVC, what are these numbers over here? These are estimated plus minus numbers. It's EPM is what we call it, and basically it's a really advanced statistic that says, hey, how good are you at offense, defense, and then overall as a basketball player. I then take those numbers and index them or normalize them so you can get a 0 to 100 score, comparing one guy against everyone else in the NBA. So if you have 100, you're the best at something, 0, you're the worst at something in the NBA. So pretty cool number that we like to use to kind of give context to things, but because I'm the guy that owns the basketball statistics company and consulting company, it's important for me to say there is no perfect statistic. There is always so much context that you need around a statistic in order to tell a proper story and evaluate something properly. So don't ever just look at a number and assume that is the fact, right? That's just kind of how it goes. There's always context behind things, and you need critical thinking to be able to look at that and explain the proper story, right? So now that we all kind of understand that and what's going on here, let's kind of take a look at who's on the team. Devin Booker, right? We all know Devin Booker, how great of a basketball player he is offensively. He's phenomenal. A little bit of a down year shooting-wise for Devin Booker last year, but still came in at the 97th percentile offensively despite all of that, and that's in large part due to his extreme playmaking abilities, right? Those are a big part of what he does, just being able to score from anywhere. Defensively, not very good this last year, and I'll say, yeah, it wasn't that great, but context, right? We talked about context. That's important here. A couple things. The defensive scheme that the Phoenix Suns were running last year was just a bit confusing to me. They didn't have the greatest defensive players around him either. The Phoenix Suns are not asking Devin Booker to be a very good defensive player most of the time because he carries a very large load offensively. So in general, you're going to see things be a little bit lower on that end. You need to conserve energy. And for those of you that are like, AVC, they should do it on both sides. Shut the fuck up. Do you know how hard that is when you have to do so much offensively? Like, no, you don't. You're a fucking moron. But what I don't want you to walk away saying is Devin Booker is a bad defensive player, because that's just not true. Like, we watched in like the Olympics and Team USA, Devin Booker was like, look, some of us have to be a role player. He literally said this. You can go find the clips. He's like, I'm going to be the defensive stopper. That's what I'm going to do on this team. And he was incredible at it. He's picking everyone up half court, like locking motherfuckers down. Like, he was a huge part to that. Like, and we've seen Devin Booker have really good defensive basketball seasons. It's just, you play different roles on different teams, right? So hopefully that context makes a little bit of sense. We already talked about Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks. Grayson Allen, yes, Grayson Allen, still in the NBA, still doing shit, man. Still an elite shooter. Not doing much else at this point, right? Like, not really getting to the rim, not really getting any mid-range, not much of a playmaker. Defensively, pretty bleh at this point. He's had moments in his career where he's been an above-average defensive player, but kind of seems like he's slowing down more and more. But man, that boy can still shoot it. He can still shoot. At one point, technically the best shooter in the NBA statistically. So yeah, I still expect him to be valuable in that sense. We got Royce O'Neal, just very valuable 3-and-D wing. We always talk about how valuable those guys are, and this team's got two of them. Royce O'Neal, great shooter, can guard kind of like the 2 through 4 positions really adequately, right? Just a nice role player to have on the team. Probably would be a really valuable trade chip this year, so something to consider. We already talked about Mark Williams, Kaman Maluach. We touched on Nick Richards a bit earlier, but let's talk about it. Nick Richards is a guy that they got in a trade last year with Charlotte, ironically. So another thing with like Mark Williams and everything. But Nick Richards is kind of one of the more underrated centers, in my opinion, in the NBA. Extremely valuable rebounder, can jump out of the gym, rim protection, all of that stuff. He's one of those types of bigs, right? Don't expect him to step out and hit threes or shit like that, but he's valuable in that sense. Then he gets over here to Phoenix, and it just doesn't make any sense kind of what's going on out there. They have him kind of like out of position, not really playing like the rim protector role like you maybe want him to be doing, and they don't really put him in any pick and roll situations, so it's just kind of like blah. It wasn't a good fit, and because there's a couple other bigs on this team now, I'm like, let's use Nick Richards, man. People need bigs. He's not very expensive, and teams don't have cap space either. Flip this guy to somewhere else, man. Let's make it happen. Ryan Dunn was a rookie last year, and we thought was a really good draft pick. And he pretty much provided exactly what you thought. He's a very, very strong defensive player, one of the better on-ball defenders we've seen coming out of the draft as of late. And he delivered on that end. At the beginning of last season, he was really hitting his shots, and that's where it was like, whoa, did we get a really good player? And then it fell off completely. Again, Suns were kind of a mess at times, so a little bit of context with that, but I also didn't expect Ryan Dunn to be a very good offensive player coming into the NBA. If he can become a reliable outside shooter, great. Otherwise, he's just kind of going to be a backdoor type of bucket getter, and that's about it. But he is there, and he's somebody that's worth developing. Okay, we talked about Goodwin, Gillespie, Nigel Hayes-Davis. Last one is Oso Ighodaro, another rookie from this last year. I'll be honest, a guy that I didn't think was really going to make much of an impact in the NBA, but actually, not that bad. Another big that he was kind of forced in because they just didn't have any other big options last year. Probably a lot tougher for him to get on the court this next year. He might have to be in a slightly different role as more of a forward, so we'll see if that's worth it. Not a guy that's going to step out and hit shots or anything, but he's going to fight hard defensively. Not in the sense where he's going to like block your shot, get a lot of steals, but he's always in the right position. Offensively, he's only going to take the most wide open of shots, and we saw them run a little bit of hub offense out of him before, where he was kind of being a little bit more of a playmaker. So there's a lot of intrigue there, so something to look out for. And then again, we already talked about Rasheer Fleming. Last thing I'm going to point to on this is we've got 3 dead contracts on this team. So we're paying 3 guys that are not actively on the team. I have to remember who they are. Well, the first one's Bradley Beal. So you're paying Bradley Beal $19 million to not be on your team. That sucks. That's a starter right there. $3 million, I believe, is Nasir Little, and then I believe this $700K is EJ Liddell. The whole Nasir Little contract was so weird at one point, and then Liddell, whatever, you had to make roster space. I get it's not a big deal, but yeah, you got a cool, how much is this? $23 million to guys that aren't even on the team right now. That sucks, is what it is. Okay. With all that kind of being said, that's the roster. Let's kind of talk about the depth chart. As we mentioned, there's quite a few quality bigs for a team that had no bigs. Now they got quite the plethora of bigs and some options, all with their flaws or the fact that they're just rookies, right, or just young guys. But I truly think we can better utilize the assets on this team and move Nick Richards. That's the last time I'll mention that, I promise. Well, unless we go to the trade portion of the video and trade him, which we might try to do. Forward position-wise, we like Royce O'Neal. We like Dylan Brooks. Ryan Dunn is serviceable. We don't know what we got in these two yet, but I'm very curious about it. And then these two being Nigel Hayes-Davis and Rasheer Fleming. At kind of the guard spots, like Jalen Green, obviously valuable for some things, but we'll see. Grayson Allen has a role for sure. Devin Booker, he's going to have to carry a ton on this team offensively. And then obviously you got Goodwin and Gillespie, and we'll see if either of them kind of crack the rotation at all this season. But it's an interesting team, right? It's not the most well-constructed team. You don't look at this and feel a lot of fear necessarily. Like this is the kind of one where you plan for it and you go, okay, let's figure out how we're going to stop Devin Booker. Make sure he can't just throw some lobs to Mark Williams and get himself out of double teams. And then let's just hope Jalen Green doesn't go nuclear in this game, and we're probably going to be okay, right? And you're probably not wrong to think that that's that kind of simple of a game plan for them. But anyway, with all that being said, let's talk about their salary cap situation, because this is interesting. This team has had like the highest salary cap for the past couple seasons because they had the big three and all of that stuff. Now they find themselves in a little bit different of a circumstance. So, okay, we don't need to be paying this luxury tax anymore. We need to get below a certain threshold. So let's kind of explain how all of this works. If you're new to the channel and you don't know how this stuff works, basically there's 4 levels to the NBA salary cap, and I'm going to explain them. The first one, the salary cap line itself. Once you cross this, which the Suns have, that's why it's at 0. You can only give your own players anything more than a minimum contract to join your team. So that's kind of the rule with that one. The luxury tax one, that's the important one right now for us. Once you cross that, which this team has, your team gets infinitely more expensive to operate. And every consecutive year you spend in it, it gets more and more and more expensive. That's how the NBA tries to regulate things so much you don't have just like super long dynasties ever. But the Suns are pretty clearly not a contending basketball team, right? That's pretty obvious. So there's no point in them being in the luxury tax another season. So by the end of the year, they've got to get back below this threshold here. So we got to shed some salary. I can't believe that they haven't done it already. Like, yes, they moved on from a couple people, but holy cow, like, man, I just wouldn't be pushing it, man. I would not be pushing it. So they got to do that. And then the last two here are the aprons. These are newer things that the NBA has added. If you want to read all the implications about them, I have them up on the screen here, so you can pause the video and watch them. But basically, as you go into the first apron, the NBA starts to choke you out just a little bit, and it's like, hey, you can't do this anymore. You can't use this exception. You can't trade for these guys. Like, they put more rules on you because presumably you're a more competitive basketball team, and so they don't want you just building like a god squad. And as you get into the second apron, that's when they choke you out, and they're like, nope, this is the team that you got. It's going to be like impossible for you to make moves. And yet somehow Phoenix was making moves in the second apron, and they were doing it pretty effectively in my opinion. But again, not anywhere that this team wants to be right now. A goal for this team should be, and I probably should have had it at the beginning, get below the luxury tax line. You just don't need to pay all of that to this team. You just don't. So with that being said, we need to shed some salary. What kind of assets do we do to help, or what kind of assets do we have to help us do that? Well, it's not the greatest asset pool ever. You'll see a lot of different like first round picks here, but there's a bunch of like little nuances and complicated aspects to where these picks kind of end up. There's not a ton of extreme value here. The fact that they even have like this many picks over the next couple of years is pretty astounding to me, but overall this team doesn't have a ton to work with in the draft pick department. And certainly like if this team like bottoms out, that's not necessarily good either, because as you see, we have a swap worst with Washington right here. So we get the worst of like ours and Washington's pick. If we're both bad, then, you know, it's still a solid draft pick, but kind of something to keep in mind is we're not necessarily guaranteed a great pick this year. But anyways, with all that being said, I want to move on to the trade portion of the video where we try to make some moves. What do we want to do? I'd like to get a real point guard on this team to help Devin Booker, because our goal should be still to build around Devin Booker, in my mind. He's a phenomenal basketball player. He's in the prime of his career. He's locked up for a long time still, so let's try to put another contender around him, man. Let's start going in the right direction. We could be good at center between Mark and Maluach or whatever. Dylan Brooks, like, I'm cool with keeping him around for the time being. I'm not going to do a Jalen Green trade in this video because that'd be pretty hard to execute and figure out where he should go, but We should again keep in mind that if he's playing well this year and he's got some value, I would try to flip him. And then like maybe Royce O'Neal is used for salary cap purposes, but I want to try to get a real point guard on this team first. So let's go to the trade portion of the video and figure that out. Alrighty, y'all, and that brings us back here to Fanspo. Fanspo, for those of you that don't know, it's this really, really cool website where you can make trades, do mock drafts, all this fun stuff, and it's completely free. It's a cool website. I'm not sponsored or anything. I just think it's cool. The problem with it being free is there's not a lot of people actively working on it at all times, so like none of this stuff is unfortunately up to date. Like if we go to Phoenix here, they're not going to have the rookies or anything on it, so the numbers aren't accurate, and so we can't use Fanspo. So this is just our plea that we do in every video. Fanspo, please update it. We want to be able to use your site. We love it. Just put some ads somewhere. Just put like little ads here or something like that. I don't know. It'd be cool. We just want to use your website. But instead we're going to use Spot Track. Spot Track's got like a little beta version of a trade machine. Not as good in my opinion, but it gets the job done. So that's what we'll use to execute the trades. But what we first have to do is we have to figure out like how much money are we really working with on this team in order to like go and get a point guard. So let's take a look here, and who are some tradable contracts we have? We have Grayson Allen here. Like that's a guy I'd be okay with giving up. So we have $16 million there. Royce O'Neal, we could trade him. We got about 10 right there. Nick Richards, we can flip him. That's $5 million. Everyone else, I'm kind of like, meh, I'm not caring quite as much. So Nick Richards feels like the most obvious person to trade, but if we could pair him with like a Royce O'Neal, we get to about $15-ish million. So I've got all the salary cap numbers here. Can we go get someone for like $15-ish million that would also want these players? I don't know. I don't know. We're going to figure that out, though. There's Damian Lillard. Dennis Schroeder is a very short-term option. He'd be a great upgrade for this team, but it seems like Sacramento wants him. I'm not sure I want 3 years of Dennis Schroeder, right? Because that's the contract that he's on now. Can I confirm that really quick? I don't know. Oh, I don't even have it in my database yet, so you'll have to forgive me for that. Who can we go get? Or do we need to go? Kobe White is an option. That's not necessarily the playmaker that we want, though. I'd like for this person to be more of a playmaker type person so that we can optimize Mr. Booker here. And again, we're probably not going to see anything all that crazy. Maybe Scoot Henderson becomes available somehow. I doubt that. Jaden Ivey would be an interesting one if he became available, but I'm not sure we have the assets to make that happen. Oh, we're not getting into good territory now, are we? Yeah. None of this stuff is probably going to help us at this point. Trey Jones. Interesting. We just had Tyus. They don't necessarily need Trey at this point. Does it make sense for them to turn Trey into like a Nick Richards? Potentially. They just gave him that new contract. They could save a little bit of money. The Bulls have a lot of point guards already, but fuck it. Let's explore adding a Trey Jones to this team. Competent defensive player, great playmaker. We get that. We're going to turn this on to trade deadline mode so that some of the restrictions come off because this trade could happen later in the year. So if we sent Trey Jones here, could we send back then, like, I want to take back less money too. That's our other goal. So this isn't going to be a Nick Richards one as much as a Royce O'Neal move here because Trey Jones is making, I'm going to pull this up because this is the nice thing about Fanspo, you can just see more details on things. Trey Jones, 3 years left on his deal. Royce O'Neal, he also has 3 years. I thought he had like 2. Let's see. Total incentives. Okay. Wow. Fair enough. He does have a lot more. Oh, he signed a 4-year, $42 million contract with Phoenix. Are my numbers not exactly like up to par right now? They're not. Oh boy, the database that I use to get data from, man, it fucking sucks. But there's only so many places you can web scrape. Let me fix it quick. Wait, no, my numbers are definitely correct here. I'm tripping. Why am I tripping? Like, what's going on? What's going on here? Is it, oh, it's because, yeah, it's still in the previous season. That's why I'm tripping here. I'm an idiot. That's on me. Again, Fanspo, update your shit, man, please. We love you. We want a better future. Okay, so there are only, how many years left now? Now I'm really confused. There's 3 years left on it. Okay, but if we give them a pick, they're probably fine with that, right? They're probably fine. They're much less attached probably to Trey Jones. We give them like this 2026 second. I guess you could do something like that. I'm not sure that's even necessarily worth it for them. So, bleh. I'm not sure we can actually make that one happen. So let's go a little bit higher. Let's say that we're doing like a 16 and 5 right here. That gets us to about 21-ish million dollars. So let's go above 15. What can we find here for above 15? There's Andrew Nembhard. That'd be great if he became available. I would love to add Andrew Nembhard to this team. Maybe the Pacers are just going to be dum-dums from now on, since they let Miles Turner walk, and they'll just let us have him. Colin Sexton. Interesting. Can I see some Colin Sexton numbers really quick? I want to take a look at something and make sure I'm not tripping, because I don't consider Colin Sexton a great playmaker. I consider him a great scorer. But let me check myself with some numbers pretty quick. Oh, the assist percentage, pretty good. Turnover percentage, pretty high. We know he's a shit defender. He's a good offensive player. Interesting, because the Charlotte Hornets don't need him, and we've been making a lot of deals with the Charlotte Hornets, so we could explore this. We're going to remember Colin Sexton. Who else we got here, though, at the like 21-ish million dollar range? Looks like we're out of options. Colin Sexton, I would like to add you to my basketball team. So let's do this. And again, the Hornets just don't need him. They got him basically for no fucking reason in the really weird Jazz trade. So let's do this. Colin Sexton, expiring salary too, so that's good. And then we basically, because the Hornets are cool with taking in contract. Oh, and the Hornets need a big man. We'll send him Nick Richards back. This is perfect. Send him back here. And then Grayson Allen goes over there too, because they have all sorts of white shooters on this team at this point. So we're going to send him over there to be with his buddies. And we just give them a second round pick again. So basically they turned Yusuf Nurkic into 2 extra second round picks, which I think is great. So we attach like something like this to it as well. There you go. Everybody's a happy camper. I like this. This would be great. We get more of a true point guard and playmaker on the team. If we don't like him after the season, who gives a fuck, right? Charlotte, you get an actual center on your roster, which you do need. I know you're not probably trying to be great this year, but you need a center. Nick Richards was good for you, so you get Nick Richards back. He comes home. He comes home. Your baby's coming home. But okay, so that's one idea, and that does save us some money as well. Saves us about 2.9-ish million. So let's just say instead that this is like, just for simplicity's sake, let's say this is now just 200,000. That does get us below the luxury tax threshold as well. We would have to fill the roster with more people, so we do need to shed more salary than that still. So we could think about then like turning Royce O'Neal into something cheaper. That's where I could see, just like, I know we've drawn this one up a little bit before, where maybe Royce O'Neal is having like a pretty good season, but we just need to shed the salary, so that this is where we could actually call up the Bulls. And again, we want another point guard on the team, so we do something like this, where the Bulls might just be okay with taking on a better asset, and we will take on like a Javon Carter. And again, another expiring salary here. We shed just a little bit more money, and we swap him this way. And I think that could be a good thing to do. Again, it would purely be a business move, but you have to. You just have to at this point. So I don't know, just some ideas that I have. Otherwise, you could maybe find a cheap player on a contending team and try to get a second round pick for him as well. That also works, but just kind of giving you guys some frameworks to think about. But with all that being said, let's move on to the rotations part of the video. Alrighty, rotation, question mark. I always put the question mark there just because I think it's important for us to kind of note that, look, this is just my idea of what the rotation would be, right? I'm not in the practices every day. I'm not like there during training camps, and that stuff's so important for figuring out like who's going to play and when. This is just based off of me watching all these guys play basketball the previous season and my expectations for them. These minutes are obviously averages. Devin Booker's going to have to play 40 minutes some nights. Some nights, hopefully, we're beating the shit out of motherfuckers or getting killed, and you only have to play like 20-ish minutes. So just an average here. Also, we got some more EPM stuff over here. Basically, we took the EPM numbers that are on this screen, and now we're weighting them by the amount of minutes that people are playing to kind of get a team score, which is kind of a cool thing. You can see it all kind of taking place right there. Okay, here's kind of the rotation I'm looking at. Devin Booker and Jalen Green, they got to play a lot of minutes because they're our best two players kind of by far. Maybe you don't want to call Jalen Green one of your best players. I could understand that for sure. Defense, big problem on this team. Offense, not as big of a problem. Royce O'Neal, him and Mark Williams going to play pretty solid minutes. I really see Mark and Nick Richards splitting time, and this is when people go, AVC, but they drafted Malawach in the top 10. look, man, I've seen Richards play NBA basketball. I haven't seen Malawach play. I think they should move Richards, and if they play Malawach instead of him, cool. I don't give a fuck. This is just kind of my perception of things right now. Rookies got to earn shit, right? Is what it is. Don't get in my comment section and be like, AVC, come on, Malawach to play. Bitch, you ain't seen shit. You ain't seen shit, dumb. Go eat your fucking Fruit Loops and shut up. Watch a cartoon. But anyway, we got Ryan Dunn. I want him out there a good amount with Jordan Goodwin. You'll notice I'm only playing 9 deep on this team. I kind of want 2 more defenders off the bench, and that's why I've got these 2 here to kind of come in and try to uplift our defensive score as much as possible and just give us more defensive versatility. So that's why I'm doing that. But again, maybe Iguodaro finds his way off the court. I have no idea what to expect out of Nigel. Just don't. Gillespie, just don't trust him enough. I'd rather just have the defense of Goodwin. And then Fleming, maybe. That'd be cool. And eventually Kobe Bryant will play 48 minutes a game because he's the absolute GOAT. So with all that said, let's go to the lineup section. This is where I get a little creative and I say, okay, what are 3 lineups that I really want to see kind of play out this year, and why do I kind of want them? So I've got a Jalen Green plus lineup right here. So this is me trying to optimize Jalen Green and put him in a situation where he can develop, which means he's got the ball, he's operating in more traditional basketball offensive scenarios, but also he's kind of supported on the defensive end because we're going to ask him to do a lot on offense. So that's why I've got Jordan Goodwin playing next to him. He's a point guard that can play without the basketball. That's great. And he can play defense on the better defense or on the better offensive guard. There's obviously Green. I've got Allen out here for spacing. And then I've got Dylan Brooks just because quality basketball player, put him on the court, 3 and D, right? Nick Richards, a little bit more experience, right? In kind of the pick and roll type role in comparison to Mark Williams. So while Mark Williams is very good at it, I've just seen Nick Richards do it at a higher level. So I'm hoping that we can kind of get in some more of those situations and we can turn Jalen Green into somewhat of a playmaker. That's my goal with this. If we're going to try to develop him, make him look good, you got to put him in an actual NBA offense. Then I have the pest lineup. I was kind of looking through it. I'm like, ooh, we got quite a few guys that can be little pests out there, and we could run kind of a scrappy little defense maybe after all, and that includes Jordan Goodwin again. Devin Booker can be that. Again, context, right? Can be that. But you also need a scorer on the basketball court, so that's part of the reason he's out there. We got Ryan Dunn, Dylan Brooks, of course, and then we can use the extreme athleticism of Mark Williams, and hopefully we're keeping him motivated. That could be a pretty good team, and this defensive number could be a lot higher because right now it's being weighed down substantially by what Mark Williams did on the defensive end last year. So just take that into account. Then finally, we have a spacing group, which I think would just be good for Devin Booker to try to maximize as much we can out of him. So Jalen Green is out there. Please, just Jalen Green, please be a good shooter. Like, this is an opportunity for you to play some off-ball stuff just because we don't have any other, like, point guards on the team. So play off of Booker. Do your thing, man. Grayson Allen, obviously, with Royce O'Neal, and then Mark Williams, who, if you have enough good spacing, which you should with that lineup, his ability to jump up and go dunk a basketball can be very, very valuable to make sure people aren't just, like, stuck to people on the outside. So those are some lineups that I think would be cool to see this year. That's kind of what I think of the rotation. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts, but we're on to the last segment of the video, y'all, where we do the standings prediction. Where do I think the Phoenix Suns are going to finish this year? Oh boy, you guys know how this works. Basically, I'm going to click this button here. That's the Phoenix Suns button, and they're going to appear somewhere in this ranking here. And that's just kind of where I think they're going to finish the regular season as of right now. Drum roll, please. Ooh, where are the Suns going to fall? I got them as the 12 seed. I know, that's gross. That's not really where you want to be on a team. But here's my thing, man. Here's my team. Or here, this is not my team. But here's kind of what I'm thinking. You got a really elite basketball player here. You got some bigs to kind of play around him, right? You got a couple good role players and a guy that can go nuclear at any point. You can win some basketball games with this team, but there's just so many unanswered questions. There's just gaps in this roster. There's a lot of opportunities at the center spot for things to go wrong. There's people that can go cold out of nowhere. You're limited salary-wise, and more likely than not, you're going to have to shed some salary at some point this year and maybe take on worse players. This is kind of where I'm just thinking you're going to end up, is around this like 12 seed right here. So sorry, Suns fans, it's a weird thing. And by the way, one other thing, I like to talk to the comment section a lot if you guys can't tell. Don't come into my comment section being like, AVC, this is a gap year. They know what they're doing. They're waiting to figure it out next year. Bitch, they still don't know. They still don't know what's going on. And it's a tough situation. You tried to be contenders, and I appreciate that because a lot of teams don't try either. But this team's got to figure something out. It's probably not going to be a great look this year, and that's fine. We can be patient. But as soon as some salary starts to fall off the books, right, then some decisions are going to have to be made. made. But for the time being, ooh, it's rough. It is rough. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think. This is where I pass it back to you. I'm just curious to hear your thoughts. But with all that being said, let's move on to the comment of the video. Alrighty, y'all. Comment to the video is coming from our Utah Jazz season preview video. Again, go watch all the other ones. There's, at the point where you guys are watching this, there's 4 other ones that you can go watch at this point, with probably some weird thumbnails associated with it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this one yet. I normally always do something crazy with the best players. What could I do with Devin Booker to have some fun with it? I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that. But anyway, the comment to the video is coming from Parfait698. So are you doing teams that are supposed to be good organizations, but they are just ass/mid first? So at the time of doing this, I'd done the Sixers, the Mavericks, who they've recently been in the finals, the Heat. I mean, the Heat they've been a pretty great organization. The Jazz, good organization, but maybe not so great as of late. No, I have a logic to why I'm doing the order that I'm doing, but it's not that. No, that's not the order that I've chosen, but I don't know. I just appreciate that people are trying to find the patterns in things. But anyway, appreciate the basketball conversations. If you want to have more great basketball conversations, go join the Discord. The Discord. Link is in the description down below. It's also where you can get access to the spreadsheet. Again, it's completely free. Just go to the announcements channel and it's right there. But yeah, go join there so we can have some great talks during the dead point of the season. But as always, I appreciate you guys. Like, subscribe, comment, do all those things, and we'll talk to you later. Have a wonderful weekend. It's Friday. Lovely. All right, talk to you guys later. Thanks so much. Bye.